Hello and welcome to Qode Tutorials. In this video, we're going to cover a section of Qi Themes global options focused on the blog. During the course of the video, you'll be able to see the effect these options have and how to use them. Right now, I'm in my WordPress dashboard with the Qi theme installed and activated. And to access its blog options, we need to go to Qode Essential Add-ons Options. This is where you'll find all of the Qi themes global options. If you have a specific issue or want to learn more about a specific option or setting related to your blog, we made sure to break everything down into sections and mark them with timestamps, which you can find in the description below. Some of the options we'll be looking at in this video are the sidebar options. When using a blog, the sidebar is an almost essential part of that setup, which is why we'll be looking at these settings too as part of our overview of the Qi Themes blog options. And of course, we'll be looking at the options in the blog section as our main focus. A few things before we start. Yes, I'm deliberately skipping the options other than sidebar and blog because we tackle them in separate videos. If this one doesn't cover the options you need, then you can check out the other videos in the Qi Theme Global Options playlist. Next, the options we'll be looking at, and indeed all the options under Qode Essential Add-ons, are for setting some site-wide rules and determining things concerning the overall style and layout of your pages. It's important to remember that these options aren't used for adding content. They simply allow us to set how the pages, in this case our blog, will look. The things we set here will apply to the entire site. However, you will be able to make exceptions using the options within individual pages and page elements. Okay, now, our global theme blog options contain 3 tabs: Blog List, Blog Single, and Blog Info Typography. Sticking with the first tab, the Blog List, the settings below apply to the blog page as well as the blog tag and blog category archive pages. For this tutorial, we'll be using the blog page to showcase the different options. The blog page is the page that holds an overview of all your blog single items. This page is part of the WordPress template hierarchy, and while it is created automatically, you need to make separate adjustments in order to display it on your site. Now, to make everything I'll be showing you easier to track, I'll change my home page to show the blog. For that, we need to go to Settings, Reading. And there, under your homepage displays, we have a static page and your latest posts. I'm going to keep a static page enabled. I'll only switch the page that will serve as my homepage to blog. There, and save changes. Now I can go and check whether my homepage got replaced with a page containing the blog list. Click here to open the site's front end and give it a sec to load. And here we are. This is my blog list and it's currently acting as my home page. It's showing all the blog single posts I have. Although these are dummy posts, they'll come in handy for showing you the blog list options available with the Qi theme. Now, the first thing we can change is the sidebar layout. This lets us pick whether the sidebar will be to the left or the right of the blog list, and how much space it will take up. By default, my blog list has no sidebar. However, that can be changed for a sidebar on the right that takes up 1/3 or 1/4 of the page space, or a sidebar that will be on the left and take up 1/3 or 1/4 of the space. Let me show you this one. Save changes and refresh. Now my blog list has a sidebar on its left side, and on the whole it's gotten more compact because it sacrificed 1/4 of the available page space to that sidebar. I say available space as my page is set to be in grid, which means the content, including the sidebar, has to fit within the width of the grid. In my case, that's 1300 pixels. Since I enabled a sidebar for my blog list, let's see what options we have for it in the sidebar section. And immediately we can see a very familiar option, the sidebar layout. So we have 2 sidebar layout options, one here in the sidebar section and one in the blog section. And they are not interdependent, meaning you can enable a sidebar for your blog but keep it disabled for the rest of your site, and vice versa, which allows me to have no sidebar set here but keep my sidebar on the blog list active. This is because I enabled the sidebar in the blog section. By the way, you have similar settings for the shop or WooCommerce section and the portfolio section, where you can also enable sidebars without it reflecting on the rest of your site. And so long as you have a sidebar enabled somewhere, you'll be able to use these two options below. And they will work on your sidebar no matter where it is. The first one, the widget's margin bottom, allows us to add more space under each widget. If we look at the page, this is one widget, and this is another widget, and this one, and so on. And the widget's margin bottom option lets you, in a way, adjust the space between the widgets. So I'll set 100 pixels here so we can see how a change would look, and refresh. Now we can see the space is quite a bit bigger than it was before. Alright, I'll clear this, and save changes. Then refresh. Okay. And after this, we have the widget's title margin bottom option. It lets us adjust the space underneath each widget's title, provided that there is one. For example, the search form doesn't have one, but this is a title, and this is a title, and this. So if you want to separate the title a bit from the rest of the widget content, you can use this option. I'll set 70 pixels here, and we'll see how that affects the look of the sidebar. And refresh. There now. We have a much bigger gap under each widget title. Alright, let me clear this option and save. Refresh to make sure that everything is okay now. Perfect. And with that, we covered the sidebar options and we can return to the blog section. And after the sidebar layout, the next option here is the number of characters in excerpt. As the note below explains, this is the maximum number of characters from the excerpt that will be shown in the blog list. The excerpt is this text here, and this text here. Although this is placeholder content, it serves to illustrate. And it's the same as we look at the other blog singles in the list. And what the number of characters in excerpt option does is limit the amount of text that's visible. Let me show you. I'll set 50 characters and save. Then refresh. And immediately we can see that the visible portion of the excerpt is much shorter. And now this text amounts to no more than 50 characters. Okay, I'll clear this setting to restore the default value, which is 180 characters. And refresh. Alright, it's back. Then we have the Hide Read More button option. The button in question is this. And we have one of these for each post. Clicking on them opens the post single. If you like, you can turn it off. Save. And refresh. Now the button is gone, and if someone wants to open a single, they have to click on its title to do so. Alright, I'll set this back to no to get the button back. And refresh the page. There. After this, we have the post alignment option. We have the standard selection of alignment settings for it. The default one is left. You can see it on the page when you look at the content. And if you want, you can change that. So the default setting is left, so let's see what center looks like. And refresh. Here, the content is now aligned to the center. Other than this, you can also set the alignment to right. Save changes. And refresh. Now the content has shifted to the right and looks like this. Okay, I'll set this back to default and save changes. Then refresh. Right, the page is back to how it was. The next option we have is the quote link title tag. This option allows us to change just the title tag on posts that have a quote or link format. To show you how this works, I'll create one such post now. And to do that, I'll go to Posts, All Posts. Okay, and then click on Add New to create a new post. Give it a sec. I'll start by adding a title for my post. Then I'll go to the options on the right, and under Post Format, I'll set Quote. Okay, and Publish. I won't do anything with this post's content or bother to style it. I just need an instance of this post format so I can show you the quote link title tag option. And I can just close this tab now. And then go to refresh my blog list. And here, my latest post is at the top. And this quote is my post title. Now, if I want to, I can change the tag for that title. There are several settings for you to choose from here. You can set anything from H1 to H6 or even the P tag. The default setting is H2, so for my title I'll pick H3 for example. Then refresh. And there, the title now reflects the style settings associated with H3 title tags, such as uppercase. By the way, if you want to change anything about the style set for any of the title tags, you can do so in the typography section of the global theme options. Okay, that's all we have for the blog list options. And now we can move on to the blog single tab. Since these options affect individual blog posts, I'll open one from my list so we can use it to track the changes made by the options. This one, for example. And here it is. This is what my demo single looks like. It has some images, some text, and those take up the full width of the grid. If we want to change it, our first option is the sidebar layout. So we already have the sidebar enabled for the blog list, but now we can enable it for the blog singles as well. Let's see what sidebar 1/4 left would look like in this instance. And refresh. Now I have a sidebar matching the one in the blog list. Okay, you can try out the other settings to see which one would work best for your site, but myself, I'll return this to default and save. Refresh. There, the sidebar is gone. Then after this, we have the Enable Related Posts option. It's set to no, but if we switch it to yes, we'll get a selection of related posts shown at the bottom of our single. Refresh, and let's see it. Just a sec. And there, my related posts are here. Since I'm only using demo content, there are 2, but naturally more would be shown if I had any. And that's all we had for the blog singles. So let's see what options we have in the Post Info Typography tab. The options here are in 2 sections. The first one contains options for Post Info styles. They let us style this text here, the date, the category, the author. To start with, we can change the post info text. I'll cut the original color and replace it with this orange shade, so we can see how a change would look. And refresh the page. And there. We can see this line containing information about the post has changed colors. I'll return the original color setting. There. And save. Then refresh. Okay, back to how it was. Our next option is Font Family, where we can pick a new font. You can choose any of these here, and you can add more fonts to this list by first including them in the font section of the global theme options. But to show you how this works, I'll set this font for example. Then refresh, and here we go. The font for all these pieces of information is different now. Another thing you can do is adjust the font size. I'll set 16 pixels so we can see the change. Then save and refresh. There, the text is now noticeably larger. Okay, next. We have the line height option. I'll change that to double the original size to show you the effect. And save. Then refresh. And there. We can see there is more space above and below the info text because I have 40 pixels for the line height now. Other than this, we have the letter spacing option. As we can see, the letters have some default spacing, but I'll increase it just so we can see how it would look. And refresh. Now the letters have an even bigger gap between them. Okay, then we have the font weight option. It's set to normal 400. I'll set bold 700 here to show you the difference. Save. And refresh. There, the category text is noticeably thicker. Okay, after that we have the text transform option. This lets you change the post info text to be all lowercase or uppercase, or capitalized. Let's look at that one. And while I'm at it, I'll change the font style to italic. Save changes. And refresh. There's the text with its new style and transform settings. Okay, now I'll put all these options back to how they were. Just give me a moment to do that. Alright, all restored. And save. Then let me refresh the page. Now we've come to the last option for the post info styles, the text decoration. There are different settings you can pick. I'll set an underline here so we can see how that will look. Save and refresh. Okay, here it is. The info text has a line drawn under it, which disappears on hover. One aside about this text decoration option. If you select a decoration but have this option, Draw Hover Text Decoration, set to Yes, it will override whatever decoration you selected in favor of the hover text decoration. I'll show you how it looks in a moment, but let me first disable the text decoration by returning it to default. And then we'll look at the other options in the Post Info Link Style section. Save changes and refresh. Okay, now the first thing we have in this section is the link hover color option. I'll set a new color here. Cut the old one so we can see how change might look. I'll set this color for example, and save changes. Then refresh. And now when I hover over a piece of info text, it changes to show the new link hover color. Okay, let me return the original color here. Alright, and save. And refresh to make sure the page is up to date before we take a look at the next option. And that is the link hover text decoration. The selection of settings is the same as for the regular text decoration. And I'll pick underline again. Save changes. Then refresh. Now when I hover over the text, the underline appears. Okay, I'll keep it on as we circle back to the final option here, the Draw Hover Text Decoration. This option provides an animated effect that makes it seem like the setting you picked under the link hover text decoration is being drawn as we look at it. Let me show you. Save and refresh. Then when I hover, here it is. The text gets underlined when I move over it. Alright, let me restore these settings to how they were and save changes. Then refresh the page. Now when I look, everything, including the text, is restored to its original state. And with this, we covered all the options in the blog section. However, there are a few options outside this section that you might find useful when working on your blog. Some of them belong to the typography section. I've already mentioned this section when we looked at the different styling associated with different title tags. But other than titles, blogs are characterized by large quantities of text content. And this is where the typography options come in. They let you make changes to any kind of text on your site, be it a title or plain paragraph text. Also, let's not forget that settings made on individual pages or within elements on the page trump global theme settings, so you can use them to set exceptions to global rules. So let's quickly run through what options you can expect to find in the typography section. We have different tabs for different pieces of text. The options within these tabs are more or less the same. I'll open the tab for H2 typography, and will be able to track any changes I make by the titles in my blog list as they are H2. So for starters, we can change the color. I'll remove the old and set this one, for example. Then when I refresh, the new color of my titles is here. And if you're changing the regular color, you might want to change the color on hover too. We'll use the link hover color option for this as the titles of the blog singles are all linked text. So I'll set this orange so we can see how it would look and refresh. Now when I hover, there, the title changes from red to orange. Okay, let me clear these colors now. Alright, we have other options for styling the title here, but they are all ones we've seen already when covering the post info typography. Instead of going over them again, let me show you what else you might find useful. But first I need to save and then refresh the page. Okay, the title is back to its original styling. So, what else would be helpful for a blog? We have seen the options for the blog post titles in the list. But what about the post content? Well, for that you might want to take a peek at this tab with paragraph typography. So this is for adjusting all paragraph text, from the content of a post to this, the excerpt. So any text on your site that has the P tag. To show you what this might look like, I'll change the color of the text to a different shade. Say this. Save. Then refresh. Alright, here it is. The excerpts in the list are now in red. And if we look at the blog single, refresh, there. All the paragraph text is red and the only exceptions are titles with different H tags. Okay, I'll restore the original dark gray now. And save. Then refresh. First the list and then the post. So if you use the paragraph typography options, all the text across your entire site, which has the P tag, will be changed. Another useful tab for blog making is the link typography, and the options in it, such as color and hover color, are all going to apply to linked text, regardless of the HTML tag that text may have. If it's linked, these options will apply to it. Let's see what else you might need while setting up your blog. The Elements section might come in handy, and in here you could take advantage of the Input Styles section to style your search form, as well as the input fields of all other forms on your site. By the way, I'm just briefly showing you what you might need and where to find those options. However, we go over all these, as well as the other options in detail in the remaining Qi Theme Global Options videos. For now, I want to show you a few examples of what you can change for. I have a search form here at the top of my sidebar. So, as I said, to style it or any other form on your site, we have options like the color. I'll remove the old and set this as the new one. Then refresh. And now both the text and the icon are showing the new color. Okay, I'll restore the original color. There. Save. And refresh. Then we have the focus color. Let me show you that one too. And save. Refresh. With this option, the text color changes only when you're actively working in the field with that text. In forms with multiple input fields, only one would be affected, the one you're actively using. I'll restore this. Just a sec. Save changes. And refresh. We can also change the field's background color. I'll cut the old and set this one, for example. Then save changes. And refresh. Now, as we can see, my search form input field has turned orange. Alright, I'll return it to white. There. And save. Then refresh. Oh, and alongside the background color, we can change the focus background color. Let me show you how that one might look like. Just a sec. And save. Then refresh. Now the input field looks just the same until we click on it and it becomes something we're actively working on, just like our text earlier. Okay, give me a moment to put this back and save. Then refresh. Alright, it's back. As far as the options are concerned, these for the border could be useful as well. The first is for the border color. And if we look at my search form on the page, it already has this thin light gray border. So you can customize or add a new border. For mine, I'll start by showing you a color change and save changes. Then refresh. And now my border is bright orange. Okay, let me restore the original color. Alright. Alongside the border, we have the border focus color. Let me quickly show you that one too. Save changes, then refresh. And when I click on the field, the border changes. Okay, I'll reset the option. There, and save changes. Then refresh. There's also an option for the border that allows you to adjust its width. I have 1 pixel right now, but if I increase that to 3 pixels, let's see what that might look like. Refresh. There, a thicker, more noticeable border. I'll return it to how it was. And save. Then refresh. Okay. If you like, you can also set a border radius. I'll set 20 pixels. With this option, you can curve the corners of your input field or fields. Refresh. And there, we now have a softly rounded field. I'll clear the setting. And save. Then refresh. And there's one more thing we can do for the border, and that is to set the border style. I'll pick this one, for example. And before we look at it, I'll increase the width so the change will be more noticeable. Save changes. And refresh. And there, the dashed border around my field. Okay, let me return the style and width options to how they were. Then save changes. And refresh the page. All restored. Okay, now the Elements section of the global theme options has many useful settings. However, to stay on the topic of blog making, what else you might find useful here is the button style section. Depending on which button type you're using, you need to pick the right section. Given that my demo is using textual buttons, I need the button textual style section. In here, there are options like color and hover color for the button text. By the way, the button I have, and this is largely dependent on the demo and what you choose to create, is this. This is what my textual button looks like. So for this button type, you can use this option to set a different color, as I'm doing now, and save changes. Then refresh. There. Now the button's color has changed, and all the other textual buttons in your blog list and elsewhere on your site will also be like this unless you set exceptions. Okay, I'm putting this back. And save. Then refresh. Then we can change the color on hover. Right now the button turns lighter, but I'll replace that color with something more striking. Okay, save. And refresh. Now when I hover, there it is. Alright, I'll put this back to rights. Okay. Now the rest of these options, given that my button belongs to the textual type, are typical typography options, and I trust that by now you know how to use them. So I'll just save the latest return to normal and refresh the page. There. Now, as I mentioned, the Elements section has other useful options that you can explore and put to use for creating your planned design. For example, we have the room to add SVG for pagination arrow icons if you want a custom solution, and they will appear wherever you set the pagination, be it a blog list or a portfolio list or anything like that. Alright, I think that covers all the options you might possibly need for setting up a blog on your own site with the Qi theme. We looked at all the options in the blog section and the sidebar section and a few other besides. Hopefully you found this demonstration of the Qi theme's blog options helpful. If there's something we haven't covered here, please check out our other videos in the Qi theme global options playlist. We look at different aspects of the options in those other videos. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please drop us a line in the comments below. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and be the first to learn about new tutorials and theme guides. Thank you for watching.